Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hi guys, this is Shahadat, and today I'm going to talk about this blog post published in the Islamic Relief.org website, UK website. And this article is written by this sister Maria Zafa, who is a vegetarian. Because she was so concerned about the detrimental effect of eating meat that she became a vegetarian, which right from the beginning shows that she doesn't really understand the climate science, how the animal agriculture impacts the climate change, and she doesn't understand nutrition, how human body works, and what are the best kind of food for human body. Me being trained in ketogenic nutrition and then studying a bit more than outside the scope of that training, I have learned how animal agriculture can impact the world positively to sequester carbon from the atmosphere and make the world a better place to live. And obviously she doesn't seem to understand that. Just to show you her qualifications, this is Sister Maria Zafar's LinkedIn profile, where she said she has got a BA in politics from Queen Mary University of London, grade achieved 2:1, good. A levels, psychology, government and politics, English literature, and 13 GCSEs now, including mathematics and triple science, all those subjects. But she is not really an expert on the climate change or climate science, environmental science, or she is not an expert in nutritional science. Even unfortunately, she is going to give us advice on those things. And the most hypocritical aspect of this article is that it talks about climate lessons from the Quran and Hadith, and then finally she makes a prescription suggesting that we should stop eating meat, because that seems to be the summary of all these lessons we get from the Quran and the Hadith. Now, the way there are quite a few problems with this article. The name obviously is hypocritical, because reading the name you will feel like you're trying to learn Islam, how Islam is telling us to ensure the or maintain the environment, the climate, and keep the world habitable. But then she talks about some other things. And the arguments that she put forward in this article is just crazy. The first one is waste not from a flowing river. We know about this famous hadith where our Prophet ﷺ told his companions not to waste water even from the flowing river. But the deeper message of that hadith was that whatever we do, we shouldn't go extravagant, we shouldn't waste things. That also doesn't mean that we will not use the much that we actually need to get the job done. So and the reason she let me just quickly get to the bottom, and because I think that will be easier to for me to explain why she is saying these things. At the end, she is saying, we are calling you, and I quote, we are calling you to support our meat-free fortnight challenge. So end quote. And that's basically she is trying to get us to. So the name of this article should have been something like climate lessons, or lessons from the Quran and Hadith against eating meat. But she doesn't do that because obviously that will be controversial, because Islam allows eating meat. There are certain animals that are halal for Muslims to eat. So she doesn't go directly to that. Obviously, she cannot establish her argument in that way. So she goes in a way around kind of way. So she talks about climate change lessons, and finally she suggests that based on these lessons we should really stop eating meat. The first one is waste not from water, waste not from a flowing river. Why? Because there is this claim based on some flawed research that animals actually consume a lot more water when we are raising these animals like cows and goats and sheep, and because of that we are actually wasting water. Now if you think about it, this argument doesn't work, because when we are raising an animal, we are giving water for this animal to drink. That is not wastage, right? if it was like the animals don't need the water and we are still getting them to drink it, we could probably say that that was wastage. But at this point, it is not, because these animals need water for survival. Now, this argument is put forward because, as I said, there are some flawed research that suggested that animals actually require a lot more water than plants. Later on, more research was conducted, and properly done research showed that plants actually use a huge amount of water as well. And for the there are some differences, like in this website called Sacred Cow, they explain it in infographics. I had the thing open somewhere. This Sacred Cow website. So in this website, they actually talk about these issues, and they show that this infographic, if you look at this, you see the animals, they actually drink a lot of water. Okay, but all these green kind of dots that the animal drinks, these are natural water. So these are like rainwater, water from a lake, water from a pond trapped, and the water that they get from the grass themselves. When the animals actually eat grass, they get water from that. So this green water comes from the nature. We are not actually investing anything. We are not these are not clean water. Yes, we as human beings, we do provide a little bit of water to these animals, and that is clean water. But if we just look at that and compare that with the production of plant-based food, the picture is pretty much the same. So it's one thing to for the animals to drink natural water, and it's completely another thing to actually get water out of the ground and then purify it and then feed it back to the animals, right? So based on this argumentation, she puts this argument forward just to kind of like get us to think that not relying on animal food is a good idea, because they drink a lot more water, and as if we should do everything to make sure that water is not wasted, even though the way she uses the word waste here is actually flawed, because when an animal drinks water, it is not wastage. It is water needed for the nourishment of this animal. So this is not wastage. Wastage is when you don't need it and you still use it. So anyway, so let's move on to the next lesson. Be like the bee honey. And this lesson actually shows something quite interesting. The first is, this is not really a hadith, because hadith is the lessons from the life of our Prophet. But this is a lesson from Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. But look at the way she refers to Hazrat Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu in this article. She writes, Imam Ali alayhi salam, which being a Muslim, I can understand that means she is actually a Shiite, because Shiites are the sect of Muslims who believe Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu to be like a prophet. So they say alayhi salam at the end of his name, compared to Sunnis who say radiallahu ta'ala anhu, right? And just to prove my point, in this other article, she talked about Saad ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and she writes it writes clearly R.A. radiallahu ta'ala anhu, whereas for Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, she writes A.S. alayhi salam. That suggests that she has got she is from that sect. Now, why do I raise that? The problem is in the in the Shiite community, in the Shiite tradition, they accept certain practices that Sunnis don't accept as authentically Islamic, like this concept of taqiyya, where you can lie for a good reason. I mean, if the end goal is a good one, then you can lie about it to guide people to that end, which as Sunnis, we do not believe. We have never seen any example in the life of our Prophet where he does that. He lies to people to get them to a good destination. He never lied to people to make them convert them to Islam, or for them to adopt Islam. He never lied. So, and there is clear instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to our Prophet about not worrying about the result, because the result comes from Allah Rabbul Alamin. We can just make the effort, and the Prophet was clearly told to spread the message but not worry about the result, because the result is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's control. So looks like what she is trying to do here is hiding her message under the climate lesson, and then finally getting to the state where she says, okay, so stop eating meat. That is being friendly to the climate and fighting against the climate change, which is, I don't see how that follow. Okay, third one is animals have rights too. Okay, yeah, in Islam, that's a thing that we accept. Animals have rights too, but the problem is, if you think about it if you think about the whole picture, then you will see that animals have rights too, but there is a limit to that right. Okay, so if it's an animal that we don't eat, if it's an animal that is not halal, then we do not go out of our way to actually cause any harm to that animal. Right? If it's a wild animal, we try to leave it as it is in its natural habitat. But if it is a halal animal that we can eat, an animal that we are raising in our farms, and for that, of course, we have to keep it well because of our own interest. But then, when it's time, we can actually slaughter it and eat it. And that's not really violation of the rights of the animals, because in Islam there is a limit to its right. So if there is a poisonous snake, there is another hadith of our Prophet ﷺ where if you see a poisonous snake, the hadith goes that even if you were praying your farj prayer, you should stop that and go and kill the snake before continuing your prayer again. So animals have got their rights, but the rights have got their limitations as well. You have to understand both before you can jump into any kind of conclusion. So in here, she tries to say that they have got rights. That means don't go near them, don't do anything harmful to them, don't eat them, because obviously, from a vegetarian brain, what else do you expect? Why do I say that? Because a vegetarian diet is deficient in quite a few really essential, important nutrients. One of them is the omega-3 fatty acid. If you don't get that in the form that our body can actually use, then your brain doesn't function properly. And vegetarian people, because they don't eat animal food, they don't get this the form of omega-3 fatty acid that our body can use. So if the brain is deficient on omega-3 fatty acid, it will not function properly, right? That's logically that flows. So the next thing is the mercy of a tree. She talks about how trees are amazing, trees are good. And the hadith, on this particular one, the hadith said our life in this world is almost like Prophet ﷺ actually compared it with the journey of a musafir who is going from one place to another, and in the middle of the road, when he is tired, he sits under a tree, takes a bit of rest, and then moves on. So our life on this world is like that. That's the lesson from this hadith. But she seems to think that means we have to keep all the trees in the on the world exactly as they are, and enjoy their shades. Whereas she doesn't seem to understand that we can cut trees and we can plant trees as well. So if we need to, we can cut a tree and then we can plant other trees to make up for the make up for it, basically. So based on this hadith, I don't see how she can tell us not to just to leave the trees as they are. If we do that, then the progress that human civilization has have made, that wouldn't happen, right? There are times when you need to cut the trees, and also you need to plant trees, because we know how trees actually help our survival, and how trees make the environment look good. I mean, looking at green forest, you just feel good, right? So we understand why trees are important, but at the same time, if I need a road, I have to cut some trees. And just to make up for the loss of the trees that I've cut down, I can plant trees somewhere else, right? So she doesn't seem to understand all these things. She just simply says, okay, there is a tree, don't cut it. Leave it as it is for your next generation, and the next generation should do the same. So that means the tree is so significant. Lesson 5, caring for animals bring rewards. That's true, but as I said before in the previous point, that animals, there is a limit to the rights of the animals. So if the animal is thirsty, it's a good thing that you provide water for that animal, and help it to nourish. But if it's a halal animal and you have raised it for a few years and it's now ready, and you want to slaughter it for food, that's not really violating the animal in the Islamic sense. So we obviously cannot be, when we are raising the animal, we cannot neglect it. We cannot we cannot not make an effort to give it a good quality of life. So in that sense, we are caring for the animal, but at the same time, we have to understand that this animal, we are raising it up because we want to eat it at the end. So caring for the animals doesn't mean that we cannot eat them. Obviously, if it's not halal animal, like a dog, yeah, you cannot, don't abuse a dog or any other haram animal. Haram animal in the sense that we cannot eat them. Haram from eating. So that was that next lesson. The final lesson was listen to the prayer of a tree. The same things. I mean, we already talked about the tree, how this is amazing. But as I said, when we need to, we can cut a tree and we can plant some new ones, and that way we can keep the balance. We don't have to go to any extreme. Then she complains that we actually don't we know these lessons probably, and we don't actually incorporate these messages in our lives. And in her understanding, what that means is we should stop eating meat, which is completely crazy, because meat is the most nutrient dense food for human beings. We digest meat better, and it gets absorbed in our body better, and our body can actually use the nutrients found in meat easily compared to the plant food. There are now, it is proven, scientifically proven, that the certain plant food contains, or almost all plant food actually contains toxins, defense chemicals that they use to defend themselves. So, and those toxins, when we ingest them, they can cause havoc in our inside our health, inside our body. So and cause damage to our health. And when we have evidence that something is causing damage to our health, we have to be careful about consuming it. Like, smoking is not acceptable in Islam, because we now know that it clearly causes harm to our health. So in that same logic, we shouldn't rely too heavily on plant food, because plant food contains toxic chemicals, and if we consume too much of the plant food, the chemicals will probably accumulate in our body and cause health issues. our Prophet obviously had plant food and animal food both. So he was not a vegetarian, even though in another article she kind of like tries to argue that our Prophet was primarily a vegetarian. I don't understand that statement, because our Prophet was not a vegetarian. He used to eat meat, so he cannot be a vegetarian. He used to eat plant food most of the times, because that was what was available. So, and that also goes to show that we shouldn't stop eating plant food altogether. If we don't overdo it, our body can deal with the toxins that come with the plant foods. But not for everybody, though. There are people who are too sensitive to lectins, like gluten-sensitive people, celiac disease sufferers, and gluten that you get from the pulses and peas of different sorts. They cause damage in our gut and causes lots of different kind of autoimmune disease and quite a few problems, actually. So depending on how what your health condition is, you should probably stay away from plant food and rely more on animal food for your nutrition. So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to show you, that this article is completely full of hypocrisies. The title, to start with, is a hypocritical one, because it tries to tell us one thing, whereas at the end the prescription is completely different. And not being educated in the nutritional science or environmental science, promoting some crazy views on this blog post is just unbelievable. And IslamicRelief.org.uk obviously read this article and thought it was worth publishing, which so I cannot help wondering who are running IslamicRelief.org.uk. They don't seem to be intelligent, and if they are intelligent, they're being really cunning. They're trying to corrupt the Islamic community, the Muslim community, with their flawed and partial kind of message, hypocritical message. Hope you can understand why now I have stopped supporting IslamicRelief.org.uk, and why I urge you to stop supporting them too, because that will that'll do some good. Hopefully you can see that by now. So with that, I'll see you in my next video, when I'll talk about some more things that this crazy website is publishing and trying to promote. Hope to see you in that video, and in the meantime, may Allah Rabbul Alamin keep you in good health and guide us to the straight path. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.